President Trump recently issued a series of new pardons. Some went to those sentenced for financial crimes or for punishments the president thought were too harsh. Among those granted pardons are clemency, former New York congressman, a former Connecticut governor, a rapper known as NBA Youngboy, and a one-time Army officer who flaunted safety measures during the coronavirus pandemic. He also pardoned TV stars Todd and Julie Crisley of the reality show Crisley Knows Best. They were convicted 3 years ago of evading taxes and defrauding banks of more than $30 million to support their luxurious lifestyle. Mr. Trump called their treatment, quote, pretty harsh. Joining me on the morning show, Jeremy Rosenthal, a nationally renowned prosecuting and defense attorney and legal analyst. Good morning, Jeremy. Good to have you back on the show.
Good morning, Bruce. How are you?
Great. So this blitz of pardons and commutations went to those who expressed political support or echoed the president in claiming they'd been unfairly targeted. Does what's happening ultimately undermine the rule of law?
What we have to remember is that the pardon power, the clemency power granted by the Constitution is a check and a balance, and it's a political measure intentionally put there for better or worse by the framers of the Constitution. And anytime you're mixing politics with the judiciary, you're going to have rumblings, and it's always going to be sort of problematic, if you will, for the rule of law. That said, anytime you're exercising the clemency power, you're almost invariably doing it for somebody who's not going to be very popular. You have to look at the history of executive clemency in this country. Legal scholars believe, many of them, it's been used far too sparingly. But there's a long history, if you will. If you look at Jimmy Carter pardoning draft dodgers, Gerald Ford pardoning President Nixon, and even when you go to the 1990s, early 2000s, Bill Clinton made an extremely unpopular pardon for a man by the name of Mark Rich, whose ex-wife made a very sizable donation to his presidential library. You would hope that these are for overarching public policy reasons, these clemency measures, but you're always kind of mixing it up, if you will, with the rule of law when you exercise that power.
The president and others in his administration have made clear their contempt for judges who didn't rule in their favor. He frequently questions judges' authority and the need to follow judicial orders. Pardons for political gain are nothing new. Do you worry about the way they're being employed now, and does it raise concerns it could degrade the norm?
Well, going back to why we think that the framers of the Constitution put this in here, you would hope that they did it for overarching purposes that an elected president could fundamentally do. When you look back again at the history of it, you see a lot of executive clemency that have really sort of fit a pattern of what that president wanted to achieve. President Carter wanted to heal the country by pardoning the draft dodgers. Same with President Ford by pardoning President Nixon. You look at President Obama. He had a very wide-ranging clemency policy towards nonviolent drug offenders. And we have to remember, too, that President Biden on his way out didn't do the institution of executive clemency a whole lot of favors by pardoning Hunter Biden and by pardoning his immediate family. Those are things that the current president points to and says, well, look, but they did it, so I can do it. What we're seeing now is our pardons that have not a lot of rhyme or reason other than things such as loyalty, other than things such as what you might call an ad hoc situation or a problem or something that the president just sees and, oh, well, let's fix that with the stroke of a pen. There doesn't seem to be a lot of overarching public policy here.
So let me put the question this way. If you continue to degrade the norm, will the public understand it's not without cost, and what will the ultimate cost be?
I think what you see is it just deepens the gulf, the divide in this country, if you will, the whataboutism, right? When you have Joe Biden leaving office and literally on the same day pardoning his own family as Donald Trump coming in and pardoning all the January 6th offenders, this country is really a sort of, they've been hit over the head with executive clemency in a way that we really haven't seen before. And we simply can't have a system where you sell clemency or where you can buy clemency or the only way you can get clemency is by knowing one of the Kardashians. You would hope that the framers intended something a little bit bigger than this.
So fact here, most of the people pardoned or, granted clemency are among the wealthy. Who's going to advocate for those people, the ones who are not wealthy, but who really changed their lives?
There are some organizations that are out there that really do try to advance this cause. You've got the ACLU, which is very aggressive. You've got the Innocence Project, very aggressive. National Association for Criminal Defense Lawyers, also very aggressive. So there are some groups that are out there. Tragically, what you see in the legal profession is people who are incarcerated don't have a lot of funds. It's their friends, it's their families who are the ones that are out there lobbying. They don't have the money, they don't have the resources, they can't attend $1 million dinners. So in essence, in many ways, those are the ones that are out in the cold.
So, Jeremy, ironically, tomorrow marks 1 year since Donald Trump became the then former American president, when a New York jury found him guilty of all 34 charges in a scheme to illegally influence the 2016 election. People ask if he could pardon himself, and the simple answer is not on that, because it's a state crime. But there are federal crimes hanging in the balance when he is out of office. Should a president be able to pardon himself?
I think the question of should they be able to do it and legally does the Constitution permit it are two different things. I don't think anybody would disagree that a president should not be able to do it, but it would be pretty uncharted territory if he did do it. And we've got to remember the Trump versus United States opinion that came out last year makes it functionally impossible to prosecute even a former president, because a lot of the evidentiary rules, you can't really pierce some of the factual issues that sort of have occurred. I will say this: the remedy of impeachment is always there. If Congress gets upset enough, if the Senate gets upset enough, if there's evidence that you're actually selling pardons, that's still impeachable, if not prosecutable.
Jeremy Rosenthal, always a pleasure. Always appreciate your context, perspective, and focus. Have a great weekend.
You too, Bruce.